Hey guys, usually the preparation for this podcast starts 1 week before the actual episode while reading Google Alerts, newsletters, papers, articles, and browsing through social media. And if I won't do that, the Thursday before the recording of the weekly update, I would have 40 newsletters in my inbox. And guess what? There was only one newsletter this week because everybody stopped working on December 24th. Don't get me wrong, this is totally fine. The problem was, how do I find current things that are going on in the drinks and the wine industry? Well, there were some actually collected through Google Alerts to things that were sent to me by friends or dear listeners of this podcast. Thank you very much for this. And big shout out to Stefan Adrian from Mixology. This was the only newsletter I had in my inbox. And he was either working during the holidays or he was smart enough to schedule his newsletter for December 26. Nevertheless, thank you very much, Stefan, because one recommendation of this newsletter, I really love this newsletter. I can highly recommend to subscribe to the newsletter. Mixology talks about things that are going on in the bars and restaurant scene and the gastronomy and favorite cocktails. And his favorite and also my favorite cocktail for the holidays is the French 75. If you're not familiar with that, Google it. It's one of the most popular, most famous champagne-based cocktails. And the good thing about the French 75 is you can have it with or without alcohol. It looks absolutely fantastic. It tastes delicious depending on what ingredients you're using, but definitely try to make your own French 75 for your holidays. And right now, let's have fun with or without cocktail with the last episode of this year's weekly update 222. Welcome to the Pinot and Pixel podcast episode number 222, as we call it, a Schnapszahl. So a liquor number. I don't know if you can translate it like that. A Schnaps number. Basically, it's an alliteration with numbers. In that case, 222. So kind of a small anniversary again. So let's celebrate this special anniversary together. The last episode for this year with a tiny little outlook on 2025, but the episode number 223 coming out on January 1st will be a review of 24 and an outlook for 25. And this week, only a few things were quite interesting for us, and I would like to start with news that popped up occasionally this week and last week, but the actual event took place on November 30th in France. A French winery was sabotaged. The sabotage was led by a group that called themselves CAV, the Comité d'Action Viticole, so a radical group of French winemakers that were quite known for their aggressive stance against the low wine prices and globalization. We talked about them several times this year, and the last thing that happened was on November 30th. They broke into that winery, they emptied 4 wine tanks, completely draining 2 of them, and the damage is estimated at 130,000 euro. They found some sprayings saying CAV, so obviously it was again this group that also stopped the trucks and drained the wine onto the highway, that broke into some wineries and huge protests and everything like that. So it's getting more aggressive, and the idea behind is always the same. They want to make the government do something against cheap wine imports, especially from Spain, because Spain is one of the countries, not only in Europe, but especially in Europe, with the lowest average price of wine. You can buy a liter of wine for 40, 50 cents. And this wine is imported also to France and then used to be bottled as wine and sold in supermarkets. And the growers, they don't like that because they suffer as well from declining sales, and people are focused more on that cheap stuff. And instead of doing something, they just protest, they do stupid things. And well, right now, not only right now, but they started in Bordeaux and they will focus on all wine regions of France in 2025. The government said, we will support, or we will plan to grub up 27,500 hectares, so 3.5% of the national vineyard area by 2025. And 27,000 hectares is a lot. This is 1/4 of Germany and more than half of the vineyard area of Austria, just to give you a feeling for that. And 1,300 companies, wineries will be affected by that. I mean, this is a big thing, but as I said several times, in my opinion, some of the few possibilities we have to save the wine industry, quote unquote, and trying to handle this crisis is by having less vineyards, producing higher quality, maybe getting rid of the entry-level shady stuff. I mean, there will always be demand for that, but by telling people this story, focus on less but better, we can definitely change something, and something that will support this, which is also part of the plan of the European Union we talked about in episode 220, is grubbing up vineyards. And while France is trying to tackle the problems of their wine industry, of their crisis, The Simpsons, one of the most famous TV shows on the planet, tries to tackle wine counterfeiting. Sounds weird, doesn't it? Imagine the following situation. Your manager purchases a bottle of red Burgundy Gevrey Chambertin for a lot of money, let's say 100,000 euro a bottle. And he wants you to transport it to his house, his home, to a party. You say, please take care of the bottle. Find somebody to bring that bottle to my place. Would you choose Homer Simpson to do that? No? Neither would I. Homer Simpson is known not to be super reliable. In that case, he managed to bring the bottle to his home, to a safe place, and take care of it. Unfortunately, his wife, Marge, discovered the bottle, used it for cooking, and in the end, the wine was gone, and they had to find a solution for that problem. So they started mixing their own wine, refilling the bottle, putting it on the desk of Homer Simpson's manager, Mr. Burns, and he was so drunk that he liked it. Funny enough, they not only faked the wine to present it to Mr. Burns, they were also so drunk when they enjoyed the wine together that they said, well, this worked out pretty well. Maybe we should do another bottle of the counterfeited wine and sell it for charity, which they did. And in the end, they end up in jail and, have to deal with the consequences. The interesting thing is, The Simpsons are said to be one of the few TV series that not only catch up with the latest things that are going on in the world, not only in the industry, in the world, they also were said to be some of the few that were able to predict things in the future. And wine counterfeiting has been a thing at the latest since Rudy Kiniervan in late 2006 was filed for his counterfeiting. Counterfeiting is a big thing in the wine industry, and the creator of the series said something that was always very important in the room was this idea that we didn't want to end the episode by saying, you can fake wine really easily. We were very staunch in the belief that we should communicate the message that wine is a real art and there is the science and the craft behind it. So of course you can fake a bottle, put a fake label on it, but it won't be the same handcrafted, well-made product that was originally in that bottle. This is the story that The Simpsons want to tell. Funny enough, I know that some of our listeners are fans of The Simpsons and have been for 20, 30, 25 years. They can enjoy the episode. It's called Bottle Episode on December 29th on Fox. And maybe couple of weeks or months later in Central Europe. So if you're a fan of The Simpsons, watch out for the episode and listen to a crazy story when it comes to wine counterfeiting. So we all know it's the holiday season and there are some things that usually pop up in December. Sparkling wines, wine and food pairings for Christmas, for the holidays, and sparkling wines for New Year's Eve. And ongoing with that, the dry January is coming. So people are talking about sparkling wines for New Year's Eve and then all the alcohol-free alternatives and taking them into dry January. First of all, we start with the holiday season where usually people get crazy on sparkling wines, and with the rise of Crémant, of Cava, of Prosecco, especially in the UK and the decline of champagne, more and more companies are facing issues with the supply of sparkling wines before and after Christmas. And Aldi already plans with that, saying we will limit our sales of Loire Crémant to 2 bottles per shopper. Sounds crazy? Do you remember in 2020, during COVID times, when we were only allowed to buy 1 package of toilet paper? You might feel like being part of the Groundhog Day movie from the 1990s. When you hear that story, Aldi knows that they can't feed the supply of Crémant de la Loire bottles. So they say, sorry guys, you can only buy 2 bottles per day, per shopping experience, whatever. So if you need more than 2, maybe you have to go several times to Aldi over the next 2 to 3 days. Or what you can do is take your whole family with you, get enough bottles, drive home, and watch the movie Groundhog Day together. I can definitely recommend it. It's an absolutely fantastic, crazy, and funny movie. And if you just want to have sparkling wine for the holidays or for New Year's Eve, and it doesn't have to be Crémant, watch out for Cava, for German sect, for Austrian sect, for Prosecco, and even, entry-level champagne if you have to look at the budget. It doesn't have to be Loire Crémant. And there are some other regions that produce quite interesting Crémants. They're not that famous. There's Crémant d'Alsace, which is probably one of the famous. At least it's the biggest region. You have Crémant de Bourgogne, Crémant de Bordeaux. There's some other ones, but if you are a fan of Crémant de la Loire, there's only 2 bottles. So try to navigate through these crazy times, coming not only at Aldi, but probably at most of the supermarkets and retailers right before New Year's Eve. And talking about the trend that is going on in the industry, and especially when it comes to sparkling, the company Schlumberger from Austria makes a so-called sect report every single year. The report this year confirmed traditions and trends. What I did is I looked for the 2022 report and compared the 2 of them, because 2022 was the first year when they introduced the alcohol-free sparkling category. And no surprise, this category saw the biggest rise in the report. Just to give you some numbers, the 18 to 20-year-old have always been fans of alcohol-free sparkling wines. And this year, 50% in that study said that they are interested and that they are regularly drinking alcohol-free sparkling wines, coming from 1/3 of them in 2022. So a huge growth over here. And also the age group of 40 to 49ers, so the middle agers, the midlife crisis people, they are also interested in alcohol-free sparkling. 1/3 of them also is interested in that category. And of course, it's a survey conducted in Austria, so the people are interested in sect, especially in Austrian sect. A quarter of them says, we love to consume Austrian sect, local regional products, and the quality of sect is usually quite high, especially when it comes to the price value of the drinks. Talking about €8.60 in average, €8.50 in retail, and €36.80 in gastronomy. So what people want to spend on their bottle of sparkling wine. So people are interested in sparkling. No surprise that weddings, New Year's Eve, birthdays, Christmas are the main holidays, the main events where people celebrate with sparkling wines, because especially sparkling wine is highly connected to celebrations. And the interesting fact when we talk about trends is that more and more, especially younger people, are discovering sparkling wines not only as their drink to celebrate, but also as their everyday drink. So have a sparkle every now and then, with or without alcohol, no matter what you prefer. There is something for everyone, and it's lighter, it's fizzier, and it's just, it's exciting. Sparkling wine is such an exciting category, and if you are into wine, you know what I'm talking about. And if you're not, just try to drink some more sparkling wines. And if you have a problem with the CO2, there are some great styles with a lower amount of bubbles. So watch out for Frizzante, for Perlwein. Usually you can realize them by the screw cap or the crown cap, because usually the bottles below 3 bar of pressure are sold without a cork. If you want the finer bubbles, the higher fizz, and also the higher pressure, then watch out for a cork. I mean, not in general, but I would say just to give you something to navigate through the world of sparkling wine. If you have a crown cap, I would say in average, or especially screw cap, the pressure is lower and usually the quality is lower because every traditionally fermented bottle sits on a cork. So try to get some sparkling wines, maybe not Loire Crémant if you're living in the UK, but there are so many others available in the world of sparkling wine. And talking about the UK and the trend towards alcohol-free stuffs, a luxury caterer from the UK recently announced that they will add no and low alcohol menus for all their events coming up 2025 and ongoing. And this is smart for so many reasons. First of all, more and more companies struggle in finding alternatives for every person that is joining the company event, because I'm not only talking about alcohol or alcohol-free drinks, I'm also talking about food alternatives, vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, whatever you can think of. And of course, this can get complicated, but especially when we talk about premium, when we talk about the luxury sector, it totally makes sense to offer premium alternatives for food and for drinks. And this caterer called Rocket, located in the UK, says, well, we see that there is a demand, a growing demand with companies and with private people as well, with private tastings, and we will definitely offer no and low premium products. And this is not only smart because of the offer, it's also smart because this was communicated on December 21. So 10 days before January 1st, 10 days before dry January starts. So everybody who's looking for a party in January knows, wow, right now there's a caterer I can book for my company, for my, birthday tasting or for my New Year celebration, because they have options for no and low alcohol. So smart in so many ways. If you are a caterer and you're listening to that, if you're a restaurant listening to that, even though you might not be a fan of alcohol-free drinks, you don't like the taste, you don't like the approach, whatever, think about the business opportunity and put it on your menus. This is not only a thing for dry January. This should be on your menu the whole year. If you don't know how to do that, let me know at podcast@pinotbix.com. I can definitely give you some recommendations. I have a checklist for your restaurant, for your hotel, how to navigate. And if you need further information, just let me know. And I mean, talking about January, the industry is expecting the biggest, the craziest dry January ever in history. Dry January was founded over 10 years ago in the UK. And of course, they are really looking forward to the Dry January Challenge in 2025. And due to the fact that the industry is fueling the category, people, the demand are fueling the category, this will definitely be the biggest when we talk about participants. It will be the biggest when we talk about reach and visibility on social media. And in my opinion, it will also be the biggest when we have a look at revenue of the industry. We will talk about that probably in spring or maybe in summer 2025 when the first numbers are published. If you are a business that is interested in or offering alcohol-free products, this will definitely be your month. And of course, I mean, social media is quite loud already. And if you want to be recognized, if you want to be seen, you might have to do a bit more than just posting your one and only drink from the portfolio saying, we also have some alcohol-free stuff. This is better than doing nothing at all. But maybe you think about an event or two, about a special tasting, about a special wine and food pairing with alcohol-free alternatives, or just talking about moderate drinking. Again, no dogmatism, not drink or don't drink. Think about the moderation that could also be possible in January. And the second topic besides alcohol-free drinks that was dividing minds in 2024 was artificial intelligence, AI. And there were so many articles this year. Will AI take your job? Will AI replace sommeliers, chefs, whatever? And at the end of the year, there were some very exciting articles. And one was in the New York Times called "Why is it so hard to make a robot chef?" And the second article we will talk about in a minute is called "Can an algorithm become better at tasting than a human?" And just to answer those two questions, what we have seen in the development of artificial intelligence over the last 2 years is absolutely mind-blowing. If you have been part of that journey, I would say from the beginning of 2023, so over the last 18 to 24 months, comparing the results of talking to ChatGPT, interacting with chatbots, or just seeing databases and software working with algorithms, that is absolutely crazy. And you don't have to be a tech expert to get that. Just open ChatGPT or Gemini and enter an easy question and watch the results. This is just stunning. And still, even though with this huge technology development over the last 2 years, we are still not super far away, but away from replacing people, especially in the wine and drinks industry, when you talk about chefs, sommeliers, waiters, 100% through artificial intelligence. The question is, why is that? And I don't want to spoil it too much because the article of the New York Times is so well written. They talk about many businesses working with automated kitchens, with robots trying to cook meals and preparing it for standard gastronomy, for premium gastronomy, for system gastronomy. So, for example, I don't know, McDonald's will be big, if you ask me, in the next 2 to 3 years. And they make comparisons of several industries and companies that are working with artificial intelligence, with robots, and they say, well, it is possible to replace humans when we talk about some tasks, especially automated tasks, but still human interaction, tasting, and the setup of gifts, of plates cannot be fully automated or done by robots at the moment. This will definitely be possible in the next 3 to 5 years, but the question is the second and the more important question is, do we really want to have that? And this is an open question. I won't answer it, but do we really want to be served by a robot in a restaurant where we spend 50, 60, 70 euro for a meal or 200 euro on a bottle of wine? I don't know. Ask yourself if you want to have that, because if you have the focus on the dining experience, on the people that are with you, maybe. But if you just want to dive deeper into this wine and food pairing stuff, the romance that comes along with that, the enjoyment and just the feeling of human interaction, there will definitely be a world where you can have that in the future as well, because nobody will replace humans through robots if they don't have to, and if they can afford it as a business to not do so. And the same accounts for tasters, for sommeliers, but this is a two-edged sword. Again, talking about the situation in a restaurant where you want to ask your question, where you want to hear the story of the winemaker, where you want to interact with people. This is different compared to a situation in, I don't know, judging the quality of wine or the balance of wine or just the origin, when we talk about counterfeiting again, of wines, of whiskeys, of products in general, where you can definitely use artificial intelligence to be good at it and to be even better as a human being. And the article in the drinks business talks about a study that was done with whiskey, where they identified several parameters of Scotch whiskey and American whiskey when it comes to molecular components and resulting in a specific taste, and then saying, is this either fitting the character or the description of American whiskey or Scotch? And the algorithm was not only better than human beings when it comes to this, and he absolutely killed it. And I will put this study in the show notes if you're interested in that. It was published at nature.com and it's called Auto Prediction of Whiskeys Based on Their Molecular Composition. So if you want to get nerdy on that topic, have a look on that article. And the algorithm that is called OWSUM almost had 100%, or at least 93.75% correctness when it comes to the prediction of the whiskey type. That is absolutely insane. And in addition, when we think about humans that are usually biased by their environment, by their current feeling, their stress situation, there's so many things you usually cannot exclude. I mean, you can exclude that, but at a high level, but not 100%. And an algorithm can be put in a situation like that where there is no bias. I mean, right now it's getting difficult. It also depends on what data has been used for training the algorithm. And then you have this algorithm bias again. But comparing the same situation with a human and an algorithm, in that case, the algorithm won. Is this the future of wine tastings? In my opinion, not at the moment. Can you be a better sommelier when you have an AI assistant? 100%. You don't have to be replaced by AI or by an algorithm, but you can have one as an assistant and just be better at everything you're doing. And this is what I always recommend people. Don't say, no, I don't want that. This is stupid. Just try to work with that, try to test every now and then, and try to figure out in your area you're working in the area you're interested in, how you can get better at what you're doing. And talking about the taste of something, you can find identifiers and you can address them to, I don't know, American whiskey or Scotch whiskey. But when it comes to the balance of a product or how pleasurable it is on the palate, we will always need humans to tell that, at least at the moment. So guys, what shall I say? This was it for 2024. Big shout out to everyone that was listening to the episodes. I even discovered that 25 people have this podcast as their top one podcast on Spotify and Apple. That is so amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you for your input. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the links you always send me, for the feedback you give me. This makes me loving this more. We'll keep on doing that in 2025, and I'm very, very grateful for all of you that are listening to that or supporting this podcast. I'd like to end this episode this year with some thoughts I had during the Christmas holidays and before, and also over the last 3 to 6 months. When we're single, we want to be in a relationship. If we're married, some of us want to get divorced. If we're poor, we want to be rich. If you're rich, we want to have less, not to feel this pressure. If we are known, we want to be famous. If we are famous, we want to have our silence back because everyone is interested in our life. If we're healthy, we don't care about our health. And if we are ill, we want our health back. And 2024 was very special when we talk about health and illnesses. We should be way more grateful for what we are having instead of always looking what we cannot have or what we want to have, and forget to be grateful for what is already here. I'm talking about health. I'm talking about money, a good job, friends, and maybe the relationship we're having. So if I can ask for one wish for 2025, pick something you already have and be grateful for that. I see you on January 1st, 2025, with an episode on the recap for 2024 and an outlook for 2025 with the topics that will come up on the horizon. So have a wonderful celebration on New Year's Eve with the drink you desire, with the drink you want, and I see you Wednesday, January 1st. Ciao, ciao.